What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? West Virginia postgame here at the Voice of College Football, coming to you with the Country Roads webcast host, plus our favorite guest, as always, Coos from Coos's Corner, as you know, here at the Voice of College Football channel. But, boys, just a little bit of a different episode this time. I know we're all going to be disappointed, and there's plenty of different topics to talk about. If it weren't disheartened enough by the performance, the injury to C.J. Donaldson, I think really just hurt everyone even more and makes this even more of a somber post game show, I believe. But Texas pulls out the victory, 38-20, and I guess easiest way to do this, we'll just go around the horn here. So, Steven, opening thoughts here following this unacceptable loss is the one word that keeps coming to my mind. Just unacceptable the way it kind of happened.
Obviously I'm emotional. Enough about the game, but the C.J. Donaldson injury, I, that was tough to watch. I don't know if it was something in the air or what, but it seemed like there was a lot of those injuries over the weekend. It's been all over the place with Tua's injury. In the NFL. Then I know that Daniel Highshaw got carted off for Kansas earlier today with a pretty bad injury, and then coming into this, I truly had a bad feeling for some reason. I had an eerie feeling, and I hate that was correct, But general thoughts are I don't see myself hopping back on that Neil Brown train. And last episode I remember you asked if it meant to keep JT Daniels next season, would I want to keep Neil Brown? Don't get me wrong when I say this, because JT Daniels is a pro and he has played like a pro, but as bad as I hate to say it, I don't think that he's gonna. Even if we keep everybody on this team next year, I don't think it's even going to be a good thing, because these guys just don't show me the talent or even the heart in a lot of situations that they even want to win games. From the jump in this game, it seemed like people weren't even trying to hustle. It was like they was jogging around like nothing was important. Nobody wants to play. Everybody right now on this team, in my opinion, not everybody, I won't say that. That's unfair. But I think that the great majority of this football team plays for the name on the back of that jersey instead of the name on the front, and that's uh, absolutely, like you said, unacceptable. Yeah, this is going to be a long season. I told you guys earlier. I know it's a cliche thing to say. I don't see 2 winnable games left on our schedule right now. Uh,
Yeah.
that's being absolutely 1,000% truthful.
Yeah, I think unacceptable is a good way to term it for sure. And it's disappointing, like you said, to see, players playing that way when we've heard, all off season yet again that this was, some of the best team chemistry and playing together and all that, and then come out and to me it wasn't necessarily the loss. I think, we all predicted a loss. It was to me coming out with extra prep time in a game you coasted through in the fourth quarter, going against a team that played an overtime game, only had 6 days to prepare versus your, 9 or whatever it was, and you looked absolutely terrible. And that's the one thing I said in our, Q&A before the game was you can't come out and look that way, and that's a really bad look for this staff. But Coos, what about you? I appreciate you hopping on with
Yeah,
us,
man.
by the way,
Thanks for
as
having me.
always. But yeah, anytime. But what about you, man? Just some opening thoughts following this disaster.
Yeah, obviously, just to follow up on what Steven said, thoughts and prayers go out to C.J. Donaldson. Uh, as we were talking before the show, I was so upset and mad about the game that happens, and I almost didn't even care about the game anymore after that. I was just worried about him. But at the end of the day, um, we're here to talk about football. So after I get thoughts and prayers to him, hope he's okay. Hope Dylan Gabriel got him hurt bad today. The guy from Kansas. There's been Tua in the NFL. I mean, we've seen head injuries all over the sport the last few days. For it's just crazy how many's occurring now. This game's getting more and more dangerous. It seems because the guys are getting bigger and faster. But anyway, just to touch on the on field stuff, man. I don't even know what to say at this point. Texas obviously came out ready to play. I mean, we all know that Texas has more talent than we do. But they also have more talent than Texas Tech. So we can't use that as an excuse. right? Somebody on Twitter earlier when I was kind of defending the coaching staff early in the game pointed that out to me, and I'm like, well, good point. Texas Tech don't have as much talent as Texas either, and they beat them. They didn't let them push them around. They didn't line up wrong or not cover people or hit people out of bounds or commit false starts. I mean, you name it. I mean, this team just continually do stupid stuff every game, whether it be late hits, whether it be just unnecessary fouls, penalties. Uh, our defensive secondary is atrocious right now. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This experiment they tried with bringing guys up from the FCS and Group of Five level is not working. They hit it with Charles Woods, but I guess they assumed they were going to hit it with everybody. Uh, I mean, I just don't. In the future, if they're going to bring guys in, they need to bring in guys from the Power Five level. Okay, in my opinion. I don't even know. I mean, JT didn't even look crisp in this game. To be honest, he was missing throws he don't normally miss.
Yeah.
But that being said, his receivers weren't helping him, dropping balls left and right. I mean, I don't know, man. They just don't look. They didn't look prepared.
Nope. Not at all.
And it's that's an ongoing issue, man. And I've seen some of my buddies on Facebook commenting or on social media commenting that maybe they think the guys have stopped playing for Neil Brown. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. I don't know. But I'm definitely
Yes.
having a hard. It's gonna take a miracle for me to get back on the Neil Brown bandwagon. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too, especially, it was like I don't want to say I was back in after the last 2 games, but I was like, "Okay, I'll give it a chance and see." And to me, this was kind of the game where I'm like, "This is gonna
Yeah,
show me if, our offense is truly as balanced as it's looked, if we're truly able to run the ball like it seems like we've been able to." And, the offensive line, I think, looked like more of the same of the offensive line that we saw, the past 3 years. And a lot, like you said, the mistakes and stuff, all of that was reoccurring. And I saw some people, trying to defend Neil Brown, saying, "No, he didn't drop those passes on 3rd and 4th down. He didn't drop the onside kick and stuff like that." No, he didn't. But the thing is, when those things keep happening over 4 years, you've had these drops issues, you've had these issues with false start penalties, you've had these issues with poor tackling, and it's the same issues here 4 years in. Then that is on Neil Brown, and so I think you can't really use that as
yeah.
a defense, in my opinion. But Bradley, what about you, man? It's tough loss all around. Let's get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, which obviously going into this, I was not blinded by the fact that our team was able to shut down Virginia Tech. I was pretty open and honest that was a really horrible team, and I didn't think that our defense had gotten any better, and I think that it really showed today. And I think that, we started out looking great, letting up a touchdown on the second drive, but we were getting pressure. Defensive line was getting movement. We had Hudson Card, on the ropes, I would say, early first couple of drives. But then he just got bailed out with really, really poor DB play. He was able just to throw the ball up there, and his guys were there, and he even missed a few. And it's tough. It's tough to sit there and watch. And I agree with the sentiment that Koo said. I was really downtrodden. So, but as soon as CJ Donaldson got hurt, all my attention kind of went to that, and still to that. If you guys haven't heard it yet, so we have got a little bit of confirmation that he's doing. He's at least moving his body around. Which did not seem like what was happening when he was taken off the field. But yeah, I mean, it was bad. I mean, it was a Texas team that came out after losing to Texas Tech, which, to kind of go off what Kuz was saying a little bit, I think that Texas Tech had a little bit of a better design for Texas than what our offense is built for Texas, built for what's happening. Our offense is very possession-oriented, running time, balanced play calling. You get down by 3 touchdowns, there's no coming back from that. It's not how our offense works right now. We're not big play makers. It's just not how it happens. And it was an ugly game. I say, and we talked about it on the preview. I said maybe it's the Q&A. I had said, I would rather lose by 2 touchdowns than have a close game and feel like I could have won it and lost. I lied. I hate this so much worse. I can be mad at myself for. I could be mad at a team, for having one mistake and just being mad that we didn't win the game. But now I'm looking at this and looking at we are in this position because of all the mistakes we made. There's not just one. I can't just point to be like, Bryce Ford Wheaton let one bounce off his hands and it was a pick 6. I can't just be like, oh, well, Taj Alston hit a guy in overtime. No, it's just our whole team just got beat. We just got absolutely pounded on, and it was not fun to watch in the least.
No, that was one of the harder games to watch in recent memory. I mean, Baylor last year comes to mind, as a comparison, but definitely not what you want to see. And like you said, it's just being unprepared as we were, and just seemed like we didn't have a good game plan. Even the things that we tried to do did not work offensively for the most part, and then the things that we did execute, we didn't properly execute. Like I said, with the dropped passes and things like that, and we've talked about that outside zone, going into this game and how we felt like that would be something West Virginia would need with how stout Texas was inside. And it seemed like West Virginia felt that way as well. But also I felt that they didn't really even try to run the ball inside. And then when they tried to get outside, Texas was too fast. They were all over it. Run game was completely ineffective early on. And I think getting killed on early downs and getting behind the chains is what killed West Virginia early. And then you have to play from behind. Texas can pin their ears back. And you can't run the ball even if you wanted to early on. So, yeah, it was tough all around. We'll go to chat here and get some thoughts from you guys momentarily. Appreciate everyone tuning in. That's tuning in. We're simulcasting on the Voice of College Football channel, the West Virginia Voice of College Football channel, and, of course, the Country Roads webcast channel here with the West Virginia postgame show at the Voice of College Football channel. If you haven't already, subscribe to the West Virginia channel as we're trying to grow that up here throughout Mountaineer Nation. And if you guys are in here, hit that like button if you would. That'll really help us out moving forward. Got Mountaineer Paul in here, contributor usually to the West Virginia channel. Says, what's up, guys? Good to see you in here, Mountaineer Paul. What else we got? T Murph 247 chimes in, says Neil Brown and Dana Holgorsen need to team up. Imagine the damage they could cause at a top tier college team, running them into the ground. Yeah, Houston's not looking so hot either right now.
Yeah, he's not making it to Morgantown whenever Houston comes this way, I don't think.
Yeah, surely not.
Yeah,
we just need to start over.
Yeah,
from scratch.
Yeah,
this is the worst period of West Virginia football since the Frank Signetti days, guys. And I was before. Put it this way.
Oh, that's not exaggerating either.
It's before any of us were born.
No, it's not.
This is the worst period of West Virginia football.
Yep.
I'm 42 years old.
And the thing is, the rebuild was difficult, and I know that, and we went with that excuse for a while. But here in year 4, what's killing me is seeing Kansas in year 2 at 5-0, and I'm just thinking, in the year, with transfer portal in today's college football, I feel like you can get there quicker than it's taken us to get there. And maybe it's because they're trying to take a long route. I know Neil Brown talked about developing players, but maybe there's something to be said about he's doing it too old school. What do you guys think about that? I mean, he's been compared to Don Neyland. Is that just not going to work in today's game?
I think too much has changed. I think that you either have a mind that evolves with the game, or you have a mind that stays stagnant in some areas. And I truly thought that when we hired Neil Brown that he would have one of those minds that was really intuitive, because he talked numbers and everything like that, and we all thought that was smart, and it is smart to a point. But I really truly think that with the new way of the transfer portal and everything like that, I think that he just took the wrong approach, and there's just not enough time to fix it, because I get that he wanted to go after winners, but those players played at the level they played at for a reason, and we see that it gets exposed every single time we play a good offense.
I just can't get past the all season when all we heard was, this is the most talented defense we've had since we've been here. This is the most athletic defense we've had since we've been here. Yep. This is the longest but it's also the worst one. So as far as what they're doing on the football field, so either somebody doesn't either they're exaggerating to us what's actually happening, or they are not doing a very good job scouting players.
Which, might be, something to look at towards. I hate to bring him up, Jared Dagey, it's another one of those things where I heard the same things about him, and he came out and he just wasn't it. And so it makes you really sit back and look at it, a year later. It's like Jared Dagey's not here anymore, and granted, JT Daniels is a huge step up from that. But now you've missed talent on the transfer portal on the defensive side. And it just shows.
Check out that comment by TR. Oh, yeah, that's a good one, too.
I was about to say that, yeah, TRE Music. I just seen that one too. I'll pull that one up. But I think I had to pull this one up. Garage Beers here. Appreciate you chiming in. This is like the ultimate question, I think, right now because. So what's the play? Not like we're firing Neil and eating the buyout, or are we? I mean, I don't know. The thing is, if you have performances like that, that's when you got to start asking questions like this. But what are your guys' thoughts now? I mean, after that performance, and like I said, just not showing up and being unprepared is what I think you got to look at.
I promise you, I get it. $20 million, that's a steep mountain right there. I promise you, if this continues, if this happens even one more time this season, which is a very probable thing, then I would imagine West Virginia is going to exercise. You know what I mean? I can't imagine that they would go with another season of this. You have to be competitive. We're not competitive. If you're hanging your hat on a Towson and a Virginia Tech win, and you go 2-10, no, unacceptable.
I agree.
I mean, so even to that point, well, I don't see us firing Neil Brown before November. I just don't think it makes sense. I don't really see the point in it. His buyout's 100% guaranteed. It doesn't matter if we fire him today
Not before
or next,
November. No.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't matter if we fire him today or next year. He's still going to make the same amount of money. It doesn't matter. And I just think for cohesiveness, like if you really want to see like a destroyed, dejected team, fire your head coach right now. I think there's going to be some serious talks this bye week.
Respectfully, I think we already seen that tonight.
I don't know, man.
He is our head coach.
You think this is bad? Like, imagine like losing. Like, I think he's at least got the mind to try to get these guys together. Can at least get half of them together. But like, you lose him, then I think you're just losing everybody.
And I get it. I'm not saying throw shit now, but like,
only way I would take it is if we made Graham Harrell interim coach. Only way.
If we're losing games like this left and right, then what's the positive? You know what I mean? Like, it's almost more positive to find your new guy as soon as possible so he can have a jump start on, getting his things in place.
Yeah, that's just like I don't see you finding a new guy, like unless you're like I said, running with Graham Harrell. You're not finding a new guy, because nobody's going to leave their team mid-season. That any coach is worth a damn doing well is not going to leave their team mid-season to come, and start thinking about us. So at most you're looking at an interim head coach, but it's
Yeah, I've always been against firing coaches mid-season for the most part, but in today's climate, I don't know that you can wait too long because all these other schools have already started firing their coaches. They're already out looking. They've already hired the search firms. They're already ahead of you. And if you wait till the end of the season and you're the last one to fire your coach, all the other ones are gone. Or everybody's gone, and you have less people to choose from. All the top candidates are already at other schools, or at least already being interviewed by other schools. So, and you're stuck with the leftovers, so to speak. That's kind of what happened to us when Dana left, because Dana didn't leave us till January the 1st.
Right.
And there was only there wasn't that many coaching candidates remaining in the pool. Now, Neil Brown, in their defense, was one of the top guys on the list anyway. So it wasn't necessarily a bad hire. I mean, everybody thought it was a home run hire. And plus, you got signing day in December, they need to know who their coach is going to be.
Yeah,
that's just
I'd agree with that. And like I said, traditionally, WVU doesn't do it, but I think, if it gets to that point, I don't see why you wouldn't want to get a jump start on it. But I don't think we'd even be having this discussion though if they didn't, if Shane Lyons didn't give Neil Brown the extension, because that really painted West Virginia into a corner. If not, Neil Brown may have been fired after this game. I mean, that's the one thing that's got you right here, stuck between a rock and a hard place, is that extension.
May not have made it to the end of last season, honestly.
Yeah.
As bad as I hate to say this, Voice of Morgantown said something I agreed with on Twitter tonight. We have a bye week.
Fairly positive, like in the past week or so.
He says, of course, he's always he's not like Neil Brown for a while now, but he said that with us having a bye week coming up, you fire him now, you insert Graham Harrell as the interim coach, you give him the bye week to prepare, to get the team together and do what he needs to do, and then you move forward with the rest of the season. But
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I want to answer first, just because, like I said, Graham Harrell's the only guy I would care for as an interim coach, and so I'm pushing heavily for that. I don't know necessarily bye week, but I'm heavily pushing for Graham Harrell interim coach, even possibly next head coach, because I love his offense, and I think that he is one of the few people that would be able to keep our quarterbacks that we have, and I think that our quarterback room is probably one of the strongest rooms that we have right now. And, he might even be able to keep some of these running backs together. Hope to God TJ Donaldson can make a return to football. And so, but my turn to that is you insert Graham Harrell in there right now. Like, you're also like completely fracturing every other coach in that room. Yeah. I mean, because then you're pissing off. I mean, Chad Scott feels dejected. Jordan Leslie's the next man up. Matt Moore knows that he's gone come season's in. There's no way you keep him. You might be able to keep, like a Shot on Brown and Tony Washington that just came in soon, but like their jobs aren't guaranteed. And so, like I said, I'm all for it maybe towards the end of the season, but like bye week, again, I get worried to the point where you're fracturing coaches then, and it's, you're really it's like you're picking up the rock and the bugs went scattering.
But what do we have to lose at this point?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I get it, and they're going to feel dejected, but I mean, what is the positive? If they're not doing their job, this is a business, and I hate to say it so matter-of-factly, but at the end of the day, you're here to win football games. If you can't do that, next man up, and you've had 4 years for a lot of these guys on this staff, not all of them, but for the multitude of these guys on this staff, you've had 4 years to prove you can get the job done. And most of them, Jordan Leslie, how much have we said so positive about him? And then this year, right. And then this year, you can't bring it to the table whenever you finally got an offense that can get the job done. I mean, you can't put everything on the players. You recruited those guys. That was them, So it all falls back on them at the end of the day. And I'm not trying to sound like someone who's, disloyal and all that, but I think that we've been more than fair as a fan base and giving these guys more than enough time to prove that they can get the job done, and it keeps to continually get worse. So in my opinion, which doesn't matter, honestly, but in my opinion, I think that maybe not now. If you lose to Baylor at home under the lights on a Thursday night, even half as bad as that. I don't even care what the score is, and it very much can happen, yes. Then absolutely I believe that we should, take that $20 million buyout and go a different way.
Yeah. Well, I seen somebody on Twitter pointed out, I can't remember who it was, but I wish I could, because I'd love to give him credit for it, because it was a great point. Because, when West Virginia hired Neil Brown, one of the things was it was the first actual sitting head coach West Virginia hired, and I can't remember how long. It was over 50 years at least. And we've had great success hiring assistants. And so, but the tweet that they put out was West Virginia basically took the complete coaching staff more or less from a Sun Belt Conference school and tried it out in the Power Five, and it hasn't worked. So I think if the people that want to criticize, going with Graham Harrell, who hasn't been a head coach, who's an assistant, I think looking through the success that West Virginia has had in the past, that's the people they've had success with, is up and coming assistant coaches and coordinators that they've made hired as head coaches. Because like I said, Neil Brown was the first actual sitting head coach they've hired in who knows how long, and that hasn't worked out so hot. So I don't know. That's a plus in Graham Harrell's corner, I think.
And totally shifting gears a second, guys. Do you guys understand why we run an RPO system without a running quarterback? Does that even make sense to you?
I've questioned that since Neil Brown got here, and I expected, once we got Garrett Green, I'm like, oh, okay, it's because he's going to recruit, dual threat quarterbacks, and that's going to be the system, for the future. But then he brings in Kendall, brings in Daggy, and then now brings in Daniels, and they're all statues back there. And so I don't understand it myself either, because they're not keeping that backside defensive end honest ever. They know they're never going to pull it. They can just crash down on that inside run every time. I don't get it.
I was listening to the In the Gun podcast. I think it was the In the Gun podcast. It was one of the 100 podcasts I listened to, West Virginia related, including y'all's, by the way.
Appreciate it.
I wanted to make sure I got that in there. But no, in all seriousness, I was listening. I think it was either Jed or Owen One made a comment that said an RPO doesn't work if you don't have a running quarterback. And I thought, no, they did. They weren't necessarily bashing anybody or saying, because those guys won't say, nobody will hardly say anything negative. Anybody that's involved with the program won't say anything negative about it. I mean, pretty much. But they were just having a general conversation, and I thought to myself, you just now said that that we shouldn't be running RPO. I mean, they didn't say it that directly, but that's essentially what I took from it, reading between the lines is, okay, then why is West Virginia running an RPO? Because we don't have a running quarterback and haven't for 4 years. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I still think that JT Daniels is the better quarterback, but I would argue that our offense might still be more dynamic with Garrett Green behind center, just for that reason alone.
And that's kind of where I was going with that guy, because here's my thinking. I think Neil Brown has tried to recruit talented guys and go mano a mano with some of these programs. Rich Rodriguez had to get creative. The 3-3-5 defense was originally started. The spread offenses were started because if you have teams that can't necessarily stack up from a talent perspective with these other programs, you've got to find another way to beat them. And I think a running quarterback, look at Kansas State, what they've been able to do. Spencer Sanders at Oklahoma State. What's something you can help to equalize an offense that might be struggling, or even a team? A running quarterback. Why not at least try it?
Yep.
I mean, yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Well, especially now. I mean, now it's pull out all the stops time for Neil Brown. You got to think. I mean, he's got to be feeling the pressure. There's no way he's not at this point.
Well, if he's not, then we definitely need to fire him right now. Go to his house and fire him. Whatever plane they got on, go fire him if he does not feel pressure.
Yeah, if I had to guess, he's probably at a hospital right now. He's probably with CJ Donaldson.
I would imagine.
Yeah, probably so.
But, you talk about pressure. JT Daniels got hit a lot tonight.
Yeah.
How much longer does he put up with that?
How
much longer does he put up with wide receivers dropping balls and an offensive line that's going to let him get sacked 4 times, 5 times, at least get, almost double-digit pressures? If he wants to make it to the NFL, how long does he still stand with that?
I don't think he has a choice.
True. Right. That's what I was going to say. Do you think he has the option to go somewhere else right now?
You think he won't? So people look at JT Daniels and they can see the talent in him. I mean, if he hit the transfer portal tomorrow, you can't do that right now. But hypothetically, if he hit the transfer portal tomorrow, he would have people hit his line. Division I colleges that would hit his line and say, "Hey, I can get you to the NFL." And you're telling me he wouldn't sit tomorrow to do that?
Undoubtedly so, but you're going to have to go through and learn a whole new system, whereas you already know everything in this system. You have complete free reign of the offense in this system. You're not going to get that anywhere else, I don't believe, in Division I football.
But, I mean, he's smart enough to do it. He's done it 3 times already. He
is. But you just don't see that generally in Division I football. Like I said, I don't remember the last time. Pat White was the one other person that I can remember in West Virginia's offense that had that much control other than a coach over what plays were ran. And
maybe Will Greer.
Maybe Will Greer.
Yeah.
He might have had. Greer. But JT, to me, it seems like he goes through more checkdowns. He notices more
he does.
Not tonight, but he does. He notices more in a defense, and he makes more calls, I feel. I agree. I think JT's the better quarterback out of the two, but
I do too. And I'm not by saying we need to use. I'm sorry, Jordan, but by saying we need a running quarterback, I'm not saying we need to bench JT Daniels by any stretch of imagination. But at some point, they've got to try something different. I mean, the last time we had a 10-win season, who was our quarterback?
Skylar Howard.
Was
he a great thrower of the football?
Nope.
But
No,
he could darn
he
sure
said
run
that
with
deep
it.
ball.
Garrett Green
Well,
would be, to
Japan
me,
won
could be your next
championships.
Skylar Howard.
I could see that 100%. I could see it.
Also,
And I love that type of offense
Nico
we
has
run.
good running ability.
Yep.
I'm ready for Nico.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying, catch his question, guys. One of my friends texted me or messaged me earlier and was like, in all seriousness, what would our record be if we didn't have JT Daniels at quarterback right now?
Mm,
And I thought about that.
I think it'd be the same.
I think it will be the same.
I was about to say I don't know if it's a difference one way or the other.
Exactly.
Because I mean
think-
he's not the issue, but it's
I know.
you know.
You
So
probably
we're not develop-
lose these games worse. Honestly, we're probably, we're probably not putting up 30 points against Kansas or Pitt.
But
or
you might
20
also be
times
developing.
Texas.
But you might also be developing your quarterback of the future in the process.
Yeah, but is that going to
Yeah.
convince you to keep Neil Brown?
No.
Then what's the it's
But
at
this-
the same point,
Yeah.
Yeah,
But if you
totally
get a
agree
guy
with
under
that.
No,
center,
it's a great point. It's just like one of those things like
Well, it is
Damn, you're
because
damned if
even
you
with
do, damned if you
no matter
don't.
no matter who you have at quarterback, Charles Woods is still going down with an injury. You're still going to have these penalties. The passes are still going to go through the receivers. All that stuff is still happening. And JT, the only real big thing I can think of that he did was, of course, the 2 interceptions, but the one, of course, against Pitt wasn't his fault. Then the one against Kansas. So the only thing difference, maybe the interception against Kansas, maybe you don't have that if you got someone else at quarterback. But so I think that's an interesting point to make. Of depending on who's at quarterback, the season may still have gone the same way. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing if you're talking about Neil Brown. But here's an interesting question I thought directed to you, Koo, so I'll let you answer it first, but we can
Okay.
all kind of touch on it if we want to.
Oh man. Well, first of all, people keep saying Jimbo Fisher. Guys, Jimbo Fisher, Texas A&M's as big a dumpster fire almost as West Virginia is right now. And yes, they have more wins than us, but they also have top 5 and top 10 recruiting classes, and they're still losing. So I don't want Jimbo Fisher. Let's get that off. You guys may disagree, but I just
I actually agree with that.
I don't
Yeah.
think he's the guy. But anyway, I don't know. There's a whole list of guys. You could go with Hugh Freeze for number 1. He would have been a top candidate probably. I don't know, man. Graham Harrell, I don't know. I don't want Dana Holgerson back. I don't want Rich Rod back, and I
No.
don't want Jimbo. I'd give Hugh Freeze a call. Maybe Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina. I don't know.
I like
just throwing
Chadwell.
out names.
I think top of my list, I don't know, it'd probably be Bill O'Brien. I don't know
There's a
that's a
good one.
long shot. I don't know.
That's a
I don't
good
know
one.
if there's
That
any
is a good one.
connections, but yeah, that's the one that I would like to see top of my list probably. I think Jimbo would be a long shot anyway, but like I'm with you. I don't think he would be the guy. Rich Rod, as much as I'd like it for nostalgia purposes, but he hasn't been successful outside of that 3-year run at WVU. Really, brief success before that and very little success after that. If you look at his record when he didn't have Pat White and Steve Slayton as a coach, it's not the best. So I don't think we should go that way either. So I don't know.
Could I say Ed?
What about-
Rob?
Yeah, I mean, why not throw his name in there?
Too many
Hugh
scandals
Freeze,
for
I
me.
think is Hugh Freeze. I think is a guy that deserves a second chance probably, and he's been a winner. I like that name. The coach at Marshall, I can't think of his name right now, but I mean, why not give him an interview? Yeah.
Tom Herman.
Yeah.
People have thrown out the Tom Herman name.
I personally would not like the Tom Herman hire myself.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of
neither.
respect
I'm
for
not a
him at
fan.
Texas, to be really honest.
Well, I interviewed a Texas guy the other day, and I didn't know this. I thought they fired Tom Herman for not winning. It wasn't this. Tom Herman, nobody liked him at Texas. He couldn't get along with people, apparently. Players included.
Yeah, that sounds
So-
like
see
Dana.
that.
I think that might be the reason. I think they fired him more over that than they did wins and losses.
Yeah.
I can see
So-
that.
I mean, realistically, I still need somebody that's going to be culture driven like Brown. I know people, we've talked about it some in just this segment, that might not be the right direction. But I feel like it is for West Virginia University. I think that we really just got to find somebody that fits that culture. Because I feel like that's why, Dana had all the players and couldn't get over the hump because he didn't have the culture. And we said it before on here. Neil Brown's the opposite of that. He's got all the culture, but he's not been able to get the wins. He doesn't have the X's and O's, and so I think that you really just need both.
Yeah. What about Gibby?
Yeah, I was going to say Tony Gibson. I think
Gibby would be a
maybe
deserving hire.
I mean, do you unburn
Well, I was
the
going to say
bridges
maybe
along
he
the
should have had
way
more
too?
consideration. Yeah, I think Gibby maybe should have had more consideration the first time around, and then. Well, speaking of a die, that's a whole nother thing you could talk about is if maybe West Virginia made a mistake picking Jordan Leslie over Jamal Adai. That's a whole nother topic of conversation you could go down. But something interesting. I don't know if he's ready to be a head coach or not yet, but I didn't know until today that TCU's offensive coordinator under Sonny Dykes is Lincoln Riley's brother, Garrett Riley. That's interesting. He's probably going to be a name in coaching coming up if the offense keeps performing like that.
Heck, what about Kendall Briles?
Yeah, Kendall Briles. That's true. That's another name. That's what I said.
Related
There's
to Art
plenty.
Briles?
What's that?
Yeah, I think
Is
that
it
was
related to
his
Art
son.
Briles?
It's his son.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, because of the Briles name, he may not ever get a job. But I think that's he had nothing to do with any of that stuff. So I think it's a little ridiculous. But
true.
I wanted to bring up. It does say in the chat. Somebody said that Donaldson is supposedly cleared and headed back to Morgantown. So
good.
Oh, good.
Good news.
Ooh, Mountaineer Paul with
great news.
Says Matt Rule.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't mind that
well,
one.
Panthers probably going to get rid of him soon. So
Gary Patterson.
He was good in college, but as a Panthers fan, that's a hard one for me to get behind in Matt Rule.
Hey man, don't let me tell you about Nick Saban when he was in Miami, buddy.
Yeah, I know that's true. That's the one thing to look at. But I mean, Clint Trickett, that's another guy that's up and coming for sure. That's why I hate the thing when you start talking about getting rid of a coach and people say, "Well, who are we gonna get?" Well, there's always plenty of options. That's for sure.
There will be options. I promise you. There's always options. By at least 2 or 3 weeks before the season ends.
Byron Leftwich is a name that's been brought up. I see people throwing in. That's a good one.
I didn't know he was in the coaching.
I like that.
Yeah, he's the OC at Tampa Bay.
Maybe we could convince Deion Sanders to change his mind, come over here.
Joey Foster, what's going on, man? Thought this was interesting. He says he knows a story about a die I told him in confidence, so can't share it. But apparently he wouldn't want to be a candidate, according to Joey. So I'll take Joey's words for it.
See, I hate that.
I don't know if he wouldn't want to be or if they wouldn't.
or if they wouldn't take him. Yeah.
I think it's
I
it's
was about to say
more the latter.
Yeah, that would probably be more likely.
I think he may have burned some bridges. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah,
but
for
also,
anybody watching
yeah.
that doesn't know, Jamal Adai is my personal favorite player to ever dress for the WVU football program. I grew up watching that guy. I love the way he played. So that one personally hurts. That one really stings.
Yeah, but like you also, maybe that bridge you burnt is with the AD, and maybe you won't have to worry about that hurdle either.
Well, but when Tony Caridi calls you out, it's probably not good. But,
yeah, that's true. You can't really,
'cause he doesn't usually name names.
That's very true. You got a good point on that.
It must have been pretty
TC
bad
don't
for Tony Caridi to call you out.
Yeah.
That's
how
I look at it.
It's blatant too when it's at two different programs and multiple years in a row, multiple of the obvious top players that anyone can look at and say, "Oh, this was their top player." Tyke Smith was, obviously our top player on defense that year, and then Miami, our top players on defense were obviously it was Akeem Mesidor. So it is what it is, but. Mountaineer Paul here with another interesting one. We're talking coaching candidates, pros and cons for Deion Sanders. I don't know. I think Georgia Tech's probably going to make a run at him for one. I don't know how that's going to end up, but I don't know if there's enough for the only WVU connection I would know of would be with Noel Devine. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But didn't he already accept the job at Auburn? Was it Auburn?
Who, Deion?
Yeah. I seen something earlier.
I didn't hear that.
Brian Harsin hasn't got fired yet at Auburn.
Hold on. Maybe it wasn't Auburn then. I saw this. Hold on.
I know Georgia Tech's after him, but I hadn't heard anything on it one way or the other.
I look for Bill O'Brien either to get the Nebraska job or the Georgia Tech job. So I think he'll be off the list soon. I keep hearing his name pop up a lot. Deion, pros and cons for Deion. I mean, obviously he'd be a great recruiter. He would give you a lot of pizzazz. He'd give you a lot of media attention. He'd give you some. He'd make West Virginia would be more nationally recognized. But at the same time, has he really proven himself yet as an X's and O's coach and able to run a program? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't tell you how he's done in Jackson State.
I mean, he did really good last year. I know that because they played in what they consider the HBCU championship, which is like I think they call it the Holiday Bowl or something like that, some kind of bowl, celebration bowl. Something I forget what they call it, but they lost. They lost to some. I don't remember who they even lost to, but anyway, they only lost one game all season, I think, plus the bowl game.
Hell of a recruiter too.
Oh, I mean, and he would probably bring a lot of those guys with him if he came.
Yeah, that'd be true.
Doesn't his son
I was about to say,
quarterback the
including
team
his,
too?
Yeah, Shador.
yeah, that would be the biggest get right there.
Oh yeah, I mean, he definitely get talent
nice.
here, but could he win? Could he develop them? And could he, scheme and do all the things you need to do, and hire the right? I think hiring staff might be the most important thing a coach does. Of everything they do, I think hiring the right staff, because that's who's really developing your guys. That's who's building the relationship with your guys. Because they're in those rooms with those position coaches every single day.
I think the one solid,
I agree.
Continuous person on the staff that we've had is it's probably Mike Joseph.
Oh yeah, Mike Joe. Yeah, for sure.
I think that he doesn't get the
I would say
credit
Chad
that he
Scott.
really
I think
deserves.
Chad Scott's a damn good running back coach.
Yeah, and he's also
True, but
the
I
best
mean,
he's
just
also the best recruiter we
long-standing.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, but
currently.
you're right as far as tenure goes. Yeah, he's been through 4 coaches or 3, I think.
No, Mike Barbus was here in 2006. Cruz, I don't know when did he. You got more of an idea than I do on that.
He was here with Stuart Holgerson and Neil Brown. So I think 08 or 09 is when he started, I believe. But yeah, I think staff is really important, especially at West Virginia, and that's the hard part. And I think that's been a little bit of Neil Brown's issue is keeping your staff members here. That's one of the issues when Rich Rod left was they wouldn't give him money to pay his assistants, and then looking at Neil Brown, he's really lost some good ones. Travis Trickett was an amazing recruiter. Lost Travis Trickett. We've talked about Jamal Adai, so I think that's a good point, Coos, about hiring the staff is just as important as the hire itself mainly. And I think that's one thing, the con for me with Dion would be for West Virginia, we need not only someone that's going to hire a good staff, but someone that's going to buy into the West Virginia culture, the West Virginia program, and commit to be here at least for a little bit, because somebody like Dion, I feel like, is looking for, a bigger job, probably, a blue blood eventually. And so, I don't know if him coming here for a year or two is going to do us any favors.
Right.
I mean, I'd take a year or two of 9 or 10 wins, but in the long term, I guess looking ahead, that's the main con I could think of. Really,
I don't think it has to be a West Virginia guy per se, but it would. If you want to get somebody for the long term, it might help because they're probably going to be more loyal to you. But I just had something come to mind. What if you get Travis Trickett, Clint Trickett, and then you round it out by getting their dad Rick Trickett to come back as your offensive line coach, and they could all coach together on the same staff.
There you go.
It might for the first time.
Maybe we could get Bobby Bowden to come and they could put his coffin on the sideline and put a
Don
headset.
Nealon's still kicking, so
Yeah.
no, you get his ghost. You get his ghost, man. That's what you
Hey,
get.
also,
That's
now
what
that
you
I'm on
get
the
extra
now
good.
that I'm on the thought of a headset right now, I just want to shout out the Virginia Tech fan that yelled at us for admiring the Frank Beamer statue outside of the Virginia Tech Stadium. We were in line. Got
Oh,
yelled
I
at.
forgot. I can't believe we haven't brought that up yet. Yeah, we
Yeah,
were just
I'm
looking at
honestly
the
surprised I haven't.
statue, and he was like, show some more respect. I'm like, all right, we're just looking at it, man.
Yeah, it's a sight to behold, honestly.
Joey with a great point here. We're trying to get the West Virginia channel here at the Voice of College Football, continue to grow it, and so we can get up to 1,000 subs here. We're getting awful close, just about 300 away now. So if you haven't already, just go to the West Virginia at the Voice of College Football channel here and hit the subscribe button. Really help us out as we try and grow it throughout Mountaineer Nation. And while you're watching on whatever channel you're watching on, be it that one, the main Voice of College Football channel, or our own at the Country Roads webcast, hit that like button, give us the thumbs up on this video, and that will help as well as we continue to go through here. I'm scrolling through the chat here, gentlemen, trying to find anything I can pull up, but anything you guys wanted to touch on that we haven't touched on in the meantime?
Thank God Preston Fox caught punts.
Yes.
Yeah,
Silver lining. There
I
you
was
go, Brad.
surprised.
Yeah. That actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Brady, because Stephen mentioned something earlier about he better be feeling the pressure. I think it was you, Stephen, that said that. Somebody said that. But it got me thinking. Proof that he's feeling the pressure is in the past, Neil Brown didn't used to take people out for making mistakes. That's one of the things we criticize him for. You keep letting guys make mistakes and you never do anything about it. Well, now he's starting to do that.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Andrew Wilson-Lamp in the game in the second half.
Oh my God!
They haven't let that guy see the field.
Yeah, after hyping him up all offseason, saying he's the number 2 guy back there.
Yeah.
And then disappears. Why?
Yeah. Impressed. And he made a play, too, in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And where was Jacoby Spells at tonight, by the way?
Jacoby Spells, I got mad at whenever he was kind of like just tripping around whenever.
Okay.
Oh, who was something?
So he
was
play
in there. He missed the interception
in the end zone.
He was getting beat.
Aubrey Burks.
Aubrey Burke, I went through Aubrey Burks' hands, and Jacoby Spells was already. I remember watching the replay. I was like, "Where's Jacoby at?" And he was spinning around like halfway bent down. And
and then he also slipped up on the another long touchdown. He slipped up in the end zone. He lost traction and fell down, and the guy was wide open in the end zone.
Oh yeah, that was him. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It was he actually committed a pass interference on that play. Honestly, it wouldn't have mattered because they called it anyway. But
yeah,
caught the ball.
Yeah, but again, I'll take that over McCormick getting beat second drive of the game. So
yeah, because at least he's going to learn from it, and it'll benefit us down the road. But yeah, I mean, he's put Preston Fox in to replace Reese Smith. He benched Tony Mathis last week after the fumble. Now I've heard all these talking heads say, "Well, it had nothing to do with the fumble because he was time to put Justin Johnson in." Bull crap. I don't buy that. Anyways, and then he replaced Taj Alston for committing the roughing the passer penalty. He put Sean Martin in his place now. So I do think he's starting to do that because I think he's starting to feel the pressure. I think he's definitely feeling it. At least that's my opinion anyway.
No, I'd agree. I think he is too. I think he is from what I've noticed. This year it seems like he's got a bit more of a sense of urgency. And even as far as that, I think that goes right here with this comment from Gojira 44 or 54 rather, says what I noticed was after the Pitt game when everyone was upset with Neil not going for it on that 4th down call, seems to think he can erase that by going for it for every 4th down from here on out. He has been doing it a lot more. I think in this game it was more so of how much they got from behind, but I definitely think Neil seems to be feeling the pressure. So who knows? Maybe that they've already, I know Shane Lyons came out with a statement, but behind the scenes, there may have already been some type of conversations between, Neil and Shane or Neil and Gordon Gee even. Who knows? It's hard to tell. But I guess looking forward now, gentlemen, it's bleak. It's very bleak, but the Big 12 conference, it's looks like there's going to be some different faces at the top. I know TCU is undefeated. Kansas is undefeated. They've got game day going to Lawrence next week. So, the bottom of the conference, it's not Kansas. It's looking like West Virginia right now. So my question, guys, is there a legitimate chance West Virginia finishes 10th in the conference this year? What do you think?
I think that there is a positive trend. I think that
it's not just legitimate; it's a probable.
Right, exactly. I think that it's more than likely the going to be the case with the product that we've. I have watched at least one game of each team in the Big 12 so far this season. West Virginia to me is the worst team in the conference, and tonight was the prove me game, and it proved a lot to me. They're the worst team in the conference, and it's not even close.
Yeah, I will argue it a little bit because I kind of brought this up when we were talking, during the game, and the fact that I think that I feel like Texas is the only team that we're not going to be able to compete in a shootout with because their defensive line was just too much we're run oriented, their defensive line was just too much for us to even get a run going. I think we're going to be able to run on everybody else. So I think that we've got a better chance, probably with everybody else, than what we have at Texas, just for the sheer fact of their size. Not even because I think we can handle, dynamic elite players, but we can't handle guys that are 6'4", 360 pounds. We just don't. We just don't have it in us to deal with that. But Baylor doesn't have that same size. They still got monsters down there, but we seem to be able to handle them better. So I think that we got a better chance with everybody else but Texas.
Yeah. See, Oklahoma State's defensive line is really good, and they stopped the run well. Baylor, I would argue, is the same way. They played Oklahoma State very well in that facet today.
Iowa State held Kansas to 14 points today.
Iowa State and Oklahoma lost in a bad way today, but they still have a pretty good defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas State's D line's good too.
But I think that's what I'm trying to make the distinction between Pitt had a great defensive line, but they weren't 360 pounds. I don't think it's necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's all about size. We can't move them.
Yeah, we can't move them.
Move.
Too big to move. Exactly right. And so
Well,
I think that was our kryptonite more than just a good.
Yeah, we're going to have to get used to it, is what I was just going to say, because I know it's a bye week, but then it's Baylor, and their defensive line is the same way. They got some really big guys up front, too. And I don't know if West Virginia can't run the football against Texas, like Steven said, Oklahoma State. I don't know if they'll be able to run it against Baylor. I don't know if they'll be able to run it against Oklahoma State or, any of these other teams moving forward. So, out of the teams I've seen, it does kind of seem like West Virginia may unfortunately be looking like they're in the bottom of the conference this year. Mountaineer Paul says, anyone seen the press conference? No, we've been on here, so haven't yet, but I'm going to have to definitely check that out once I get off there, because he follows that up with saying that it's bad. So I'm going to check that out.
Can you follow up and say that is it bad from what Neil says, or is it bad because he gives news on C.J. Donaldson? I would hope and imagine it would be the first of those.
Yeah. In my opinion, if we accept being 10th in the conference, then they need to fire the whole administration.
That I would,
we're the 15th winningest program of all time, and I'm a little bit pissed that we're 10th in the conference. To be honest with you,
as we should be. We shouldn't accept being 10th in the conference. That's not what we're about. That's not what we joined this conference to be. We joined this conference to be competitive and win and compete for championships, and we haven't gotten even close yet. And every time that we have had a chance to get close to that, we've fumbled it away each and every single time. And you mentioned Skylar Howard earlier. I don't know about you guys, but it seemed to me that he was not backed by this fan base very much.
I love Skylar Howard, but he did catch
I also
a lot
did.
Of
I also love Skylar Howard. I know Cruz also loves Skylar Howard. Cruz, I would imagine you, with your attitude towards him, I'd imagine you were a big Skylar fan as well.
I was not at the time.
Really?
To be honest with you, I just didn't see it for whatever reason. I couldn't see. All I looked at was his arm. I saw it. He's not a quarterback. He's not a quarterback.
Right.
Now,
but he was a baller. He was a straight up baller.
And at the time, I didn't see it. Now, I didn't agree with the way he was treated by the fans. I don't think he should have been booed and all that stuff. But I was not a fan of his because I got tired of seeing him overthrow people. But now, hindsight's 2020, right? I see.
Right.
I look at what we've been through since then, and I'm going, man, I'd love to have that guy back.
Yeah, because he could do the one thing that no other quarterback that has done since we've joined this conference. He could win games.
Yeah.
Even Geno Smith. Geno Smith couldn't win 10 games in the Big 12 conference.
Of course, the one argument I've had thrown out to me, and I guess it's fair, is that the year we won 10 games in the Big 12, the Big 12 was really down that year, and there was not really any great teams in it.
It doesn't matter.
I agree with you. I'm not saying.
Yeah. I agree.
Devil's advocate argument to that, and it's a fair argument, but I don't really think it was that down. I don't think the Big 12 hasn't been an elite conference in a long time, probably since the mid 2000s, when Texas and Oklahoma were playing in national championships. That's the last time the Big 12 has been an elite conference. So I don't really think that's a valid argument either, Bradley.
Yeah.
But that is one of the arguments that I get.
Yeah, you tell them they're wrong, Coos.
Well, I try, but they don't listen to me.
Yeah, good luck getting anyone to listen on social media or anything like that. That's for sure. But no, I'm kind of like just put myself back down in the dumps because as I was talking about the question about us being the worst team in the Big 12 was like I was realizing it as I was asking it that we probably are going to be the worst team in the Big 12 this year, and that unacceptable. Like I said, that was the word for the game, and that's the word for that. If we're worse in the Big 12, I don't care if we, if the Big 12 ends up being everybody beating up everybody, and we're 10th in the Big 12 at 5-7 or 6-6. I know we had posed a question before if we were that record, would we, keep him? And I said yes. But if we're 10th in the Big 12 with a record like that, then no. I think no, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not.
Well, gentlemen, I guess we'll get ready to wrap it up before it gets too late. I know most of us probably got work tomorrow, whatever. But any
Tomorrow's
final
Sunday, so
thoughts
that's
before we get out of here? Yeah. Anything anybody else wants to touch on before we head out?
Well, I guess I will. I'll take this opportunity to. Well, first, thank you again, Coos, for coming on here with us.
Yeah, man.
We always appreciate you joining in on us.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. If I can talk, if anybody doesn't know in the comments, he has a show called Coos's Corner. Check that out on YouTube and everywhere
Your
else.
shot at top shelf college football content.
Yeah, man. The best. But
Well,
otherwise,
after this game, I need a shot of something else, man.
yeah, no doubt.
Probably if you.
Think
If I
we
didn't have
all
to work
do.
in the morning, boy, I'd be out downtown Charlotte right now.
Yeah.
Uptown Charlotte.
Hey, on a positive note, we do have the Country Roads Webcast Hoops edition coming up in just a couple weeks. Probably
Is
going
it
to do
basketball season yet?
We've at least
Getting
got a scrimmage on the 28th of October, so I'm counting that as a game. In my heart,
we're
it's
in
going
the
to be a
month.
real game.
Don't get your hopes up for the hoops either, boys.
Well, the
Brad's
death
not so hopeful,
the death
but-
sentence has already been claimed because Bob Huggins said in his first press conference that the guys can make shots.
Hey,
Oh,
but
my
have you
God.
ever seen? Hey, I will say that's true, Coos. That's true. But have you ever heard him say it with a smile on his face?
That's true. And he said it like 3 times. He said, it actually goes in. The ball actually goes in.
The Huggy Bear looked like a kid on Christmas in that
He
press
did.
conference. I don't think I've seen him that happy since
Well,
his hiring press
I
conference.
think I think he's still coming off the high from being in the Hall of Fame. Maybe, I don't know. That's
that could
what I
be
chalked
true.
it up to.
That could be true.
Now, I am
Yeah, that
excited.
could be
I don't want to
true.
get off topic, but I am excited about basketball season. But
Yeah, Jimmy Bell Jr. is a man.
it's still too far away for me to think about it a whole lot yet.
Yeah, still
Well,
heartbreaking from getting
I
slapped.
thought the same thing before the game ended earlier, and now I'm ready to think about it. I'm about to go start watching all these old basketball
I hear you.
basketball clips.
I don't blame you there. I don't blame you. But that being said, we'll continue to cover the season as it goes along. No matter how depressing it gets, we'll still bring you plenty of coverage here on the Country Roads webcast, as will Coos over on Coos's Corner, and of course a multitude of hosts here at the West Virginia channel at the Voice of College Football. Which please hit the subscribe button too if you haven't already, as we continue to try and grow that through Mountaineer Nation. And on your way out, whether you're watching this live, and we appreciate that everyone that has tuned in live and chimed in the chat, or if you're watching on the playback, hit the thumbs up and give us a like while you're watching the video. That will really help us no matter which channel you're tuning into it on. That being said, we'll be back next week. Well, not next week, but I guess the week after, about 10 or 11 days. We got a bye week next week, so no post-game show next week. But following the Baylor game, Thursday, October 13th, we'll be back here again late that night to give you guys another post-game show here at the West Virginia channel here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you guys here. For my co-hosts here, Steven and Bradley, and our guests, Coos. Until next time, let's go, Mountaineers.
Q Country Roads.